Hey, what's up? My name is Logan. I'm one half of Logan and Katie, and I thought today we'd break down our new song, Got a Reason to Praise. We had an interesting experience writing this song. The whole entire summer we weren't able to get into the studio. Had the flooring rot out because this air conditioner back here started leaking, and so that left us without a studio. And so I produced this thing. We recorded the entire song, everything completely done in our dining room, which created some really challenging issues. A ton of reflection off the window for the vocals. Just made it really hard to honestly record because I was having to use headphones for almost all playback. Made me have to be kind of creative in certain parts, and so I thought we'd break it down today and kind of give a behind look of what went into the song and how we got some of the sounds we got. So the first thing we have in this song going on is this, sounds like an arpeggiated guitar, and it goes like this. It's the first thing you hear when it comes in. So this was a sample off Splice that I found that was really long. I cut it down to just, half a bar, and then put it on loop so that it would cut really quick. If you listen to it before I've added on anything to it, kind of clicks every time the bar jumps in, every time it starts to loop. And so put on some chorus, try to make it wider in the track, and then put on kickstart, which is a plug-in that is a sidechaining plug-in. Just causes everything to duck every few seconds, or this is half a bar, and so makes you bob your head. So by the time everything comes in with the song, so we got down here, we're just playing some electric piano. Once again, I've got kickstart on it. Not doing a lot. It's not anything crazy. It's maybe just causing it to sound a little warbly. And then I put OTT on it, which is a multi-band compressor. Without it, it's just a little too muffled. Just brings it forward a little bit. A little bit of piano. This is just, this whole thing was done inside the house, so all of our time, like every bit of recording had to be done when she was sleeping or had to be done in headphones while our daughter napped. And same thing with recording. I think every vocal was taken during a nap. Next thing you hear is this, just like a kick and snare. I had in my mind this was gonna be a warehouse kind of thing. Wanted to sound big, and this is just a sample from Splice, cut up. Then down here, you see it says Nays Tambo. Naomi is our daughter. I came in the house one day, and she was doing this. I needed a backbeat for the intro. So I recorded that little section of her playing the tambourine, and I just how cool would it be if my daughter is our featured artist on this song. Got a compressor on it, but you can see I'm just taking out all the low end. It'd be interesting if I pull it back some, maybe you can hear what she's doing in the background. Yeah, you can see that she's just smoking it. But yeah, we put it in there. It's just cool. It just makes it feel. I don't know, nothing cooler than having your daughter in your song. So that's the beginning part. Because I couldn't record acoustics in the house, I originally put in these fake acoustic guitars so that Katie had something to listen to in the car and sing along with. But I was like, I'll go in and eventually replace these guitars. They don't sound very human. It's not really like how a human would play unless you were so stiff. And so I paired those acoustics with the real acoustics that I eventually got to play on here. But those also didn't sound good. And I just ran into a ton of problems with, I used the entire record. I didn't have this mic right here available. Also not a great mic. It's the Bluebird. We've had this since I first started producing songs. It's about time for us to do a mic upgrade. We had to use this microphone for every vocal on this track, which This is a great microphone. It's a Telefunken M80, but it's a dynamic microphone that's not really designed to do a full production song like this. But you got to make, there's the thing about Michael Jackson and the SM7 or whatever, but we got to make it work. And it caused some problems. There were certain things that sounded good, and there's certain things that I probably like overcorrected because I knew what I recorded with. There's kind of that mental thing going on. But these guitars by themselves did not sound good either. And so I ended up having to take that guitar, and when I stacked them all together, even though they're playing, like I'm playing what I feel like is what you would play to it, and then the computer, how I played it on Contact or whatever I played it through, is playing just so straight. It does sound somewhat like a normal person. Definitely better. Definitely better that way. Another thing you hear as the song opens up is some electric guitars. There's a lot of electric guitars in this song, especially compared to any other Logan Katie song before. It comes in right with this. And I think every guitar on here, electric guitar, is all the same. It's the Archetype Corey Wong. Nothing's changing on here, but it's the Archetype Corey Wong uh, expensive clean amp, I think is what it's called. I used it for there it is. Yeah, the amp snob one, expensive amp clean, and then I just changed a bunch of the settings depending on which guitar it was. But I had never got a chance to use it. I had used the Tim Henson archetype on some of our songs, but I never got a chance to use that one specifically, and it worked out really well. I was able to get a bunch of different cool tones. The coolest tone on the song is, you can see down here, I've got a centaur. I tried to make it sound like a centaur, and it really cool. I'm doing some other weird stuff to it to make it sound like that. So if I take off all the plugins and it's just the DI, that's what I recorded. You add the archetype pedal on there. It's already weird. And it's weird because I think you've got the shimmer, the wash pedal that has the shimmer turned on. I got the 80s thing going, but then I've also got a heavy compressor on it. I was thinking I did something else to this too, but maybe not. Maybe that was it. But then you add Valhalla shimmer. No, it's just verb. Okay, so the shimmer is just there. So it's just a big reverb. Then I've got Pancake, basically the source to go from this speaker to this speaker. And then OTT, which is the compressor again. But yeah, I was just I thought that was really cool, and it fit the song. I wanted it to sound 70s, spacey, 60s music, kind of like weird. I was really happy with that, but I wanted to make it a little thicker, and so I doubled it with this, what I just call a high spacey synth. I think it came from Omnisphere, but I've already bounced it down. Just adding some space, adding some room. I had a really hard time in this song trying to get everything wide. I wanted it to sound wider, and so a lot of these were just kind of like ways to fill up the track. All right, so then I think the next thing you probably hear, I've got some splice samples in here just thrown in that give it that kind of country 60s sound. I think this is the last thing I added, and it was just because I didn't feel like the song sounded very full when I listened to it in the speakers over and over again. And I think listening back, that's still probably my biggest thing, is like it's maybe a little thin. But just added one single holding down a C sharp the entire song, just to add some low end. And right here it says intro pad choir thing. When I tell Katie what I'm doing, I'm like, I'm gonna go add that Phil Wickham vocal. And what I mean by that is, you listen to his new stuff, everything that came after the Living Hope album, he's always got in these, basically it seems like he's just singing some really breathy notes into what feels like maybe like Valhalla Shimmer. That's how I'm getting the sound. So if you listen to me just sing this plain, this is me singing right here. It sounds not great. That's like me singing 6 times, 3 on the left, 3 on the right. 2 of them are in falsetto. Then I've added shimmer to it, which is Valhalla shimmer, makes things shimmer. Already sounds kind of cool. Then I'm rolling off some low ends so you don't hear so much my voice. And then spreader, which is not really what this is used for, but just to try to make everything wider. And it's just a way more organic sounding pad than me trying to play that through Omnisphere or some other VST. It just, I don't know, sounds cool. I hear him do it on like every song, and so we started doing it on one of our songs called, we did it on the How I Trust Him acoustic version, and since then I've been doing it on a lot of our stuff. And yeah, it definitely just adds another human element to it that you can't get just straight through a pad, unless there's some really good VSTs out there, which there are, but I don't have the money to afford them. All right, now let's get into the verse. First thing you hear is Katie's vocals. This was a nightmare, not because she sang poorly, but because I had so many reflections from singing in the dining room. We sang right up next to a window. We just didn't have many options. We had to be on the opposite side of the house for when Naomi was sleeping. And so it just created so many harsh syllabus issues that even with 3 de-esters and soothe, I had a really hard time getting it out. But she sang great.
Just a sickness brought the strong down to their knees. But I believe that God's got a plan for all of life's sorrow.
So yeah, so we got the verses coming in. Sounds great. I ended up having to, the microphone, I just felt like made it, her voice sound way thinner than what it is. And so I doubled it with a low octave right here.
Seen some heartache come upon some heart-healthy people.
Which by itself sounds really silly. But when you put them together,
but I believe that
it's really just adding in some of the frequencies that I felt like if I added them into the main vocal, it got really muddy. And if I took them out, it got too thin. So I felt like that thickened it up. Skip over to the...
I've seen the rain coming down.
You got the bass guitar. The first thing that comes in with the bass is I'm just doing some like high stuff up high on the neck. Kind of cut it off as soon as it started doing like a little bit of a, vibrato. That's the Crusher from the Corey Wong archetype plugin. It's just made everything sound really distorted, and it's the vibe of this song. When you hear it later on, it's like... That bass is really just trying to create the sound, but the low end is not coming from that. I actually have, if you look up here on the EQ, I have so much of the bass frequency rolled off because it's just muddy. I added all those frequencies back in with a synth bass from Omnisphere. Both of those are being sidechained at the kick, so every time the kick hits, the bass ducks out for a second. Piano's coming through. Drums are, they're all fake, standard, especially if you have a home studio. But the drums are me just tapping them out. Put them all together. I feel like I've kind of dialed in drums that I like how they sound. I use Easy Drummer. There's some more advanced drumming VSTs, but I like Easy Drummer, and I have the Pop Punk sound pack because I, see it right here, because I love pop punk and I make some other stuff for my solo music. And through Neutron, which is a plugin, kind of makes your, it's like for mixing and EQ and everything. Through that and some reverb, I feel like this is, it doesn't sound like, I don't know, it doesn't sound like Elevations drums. The snare is not that deep, but I feel like it sounds like a good, really good drum kit. That's another thing. This is really cool. I had to go tune my dad's drums, so I don't know how to play drums, but I can hear decently what they should sound like just from years of music production. And my dad asked me to come tune his drums. I said, sure. And I was like, you know what? Before I forget to do this one day and I want to be able to have this, hit your snare drum for me. And so he hits the snare drum, and it was, you know, I don't know. This is a cool thing to have from your dad. It's like a sound that I've known my dad as a drummer my whole life. And so I have this recording of called Dad's Snare Hit. And so for this song, it's featured in two ways. I want to see if I kept it. Yeah, it's featured in two ways. The first way is when he hit it, I loaded it in here. I was going to originally just use it as the snare sound, but it still has, you can still hear in the background of it my mom in the kitchen talking with my wife or with Katie. And so it wasn't going to be worth that. So what I did is I took it, I reversed it. And so instead of the, you hear it in reverse, which sounds like this. And so all of my like sweeps to build into choruses and stuff are my dad hitting that snare drum. You can't really hear it right there. It's super low in the mix. But it's just overall just making like bringing some suspense in. And then it's in the choruses and it's called Dad's Snare Huge Hits. And because I've taken it and I've already bounced it down here so you can't see the plugins on it, basically just made it, it's like an explosion whenever it hits. And I think this next one's big. Yeah, so it's just, that's not what it sounded like obviously when he hit it, but it was a really crisp sounding snare, and then I added a bunch of reverb and everything, and so now when it pops in those choruses, it's like, yeah, so it hits really hard in those choruses, and just, that's a cool thing to have. I got my dad and my daughter featured on this, and neither one of them are really aware of it, so I haven't got a chance to show it. That's how I ended up using it to my dad, and Naomi will figure it out. So there's some stuff going on in the song that I think you would probably never notice was in there, and this is one of them. It's just this going on in the background of verse 2. Now watch as the floods roll in. It's like so quiet you never hear it, but it's more, I was just trying to get a bunch of signal going to each speaker to try to make it wider, and I felt like that did a little bit. When I took it out, I was like, oh, something's missing. When I have it in there, I can't even really hear it myself. There's some other percussion going on in the next part. Nice to see the just trying to get it to move. Once again, I take it out, I can tell it's not there. I put it in, I can't even barely hear it. But it's just all about these like super subtle things to try to make the song feel bigger than what it really is. At the core of it, it's just a rock song with piano, electric guitar, bass, and drums, but you have all this stuff in behind it to make it sound real. When you get to, there's a part in the second verse that everything kind of drops out. It gets really choppy. So if I just stack all these guitars, you can hear how big they sound. I think they're all, yeah, I think they're all through the same Corey Wong pedal. This one right here is hitting really hard. That's just that same exact plug-in and amp I'm running through. This time I put OTT on it, that compressor, that without it still sounds sick. But it doesn't hit you in the face as hard as when you put the OTT on it. And then it's... sounds pretty gnarly. There's also this going on in the background, which was just to create some chaos, which is really annoying. It's it's one of the steel guitars in the beginning, but I was just trying to create it to make it sound a little messy right there. Name the everywhere the spirit goes, roll away another stone. Everything just to try to get something interesting happening to the listener's ears. So then it gets into the bridge. We've got some choirs that are going to kick in a second. These ones are fake. That's Omnisphere. And this, in the bridge, it starts.
A mighty fortress is high.
There's this arpeggiator. I feel like we're just kind of building suspense.
A mighty fortress is high.
The last chorus, a few more things kick in. You got this high synth right here. Trying to make the last chorus just, you want to take it up a notch, and so add in. Oh, I never talked about this. Every chorus, there's this. There's a guitar that hits off. It's. And it sounds pretty bad. When it was one of those things that I was recording with headphones, sounded pretty good. I took them off and listened through speakers. Like, this sounds terrible. But when you put it all together, you don't hear all the like the noise that's kind of like not good. You just kind of hear the note, which is slightly bending. It's really taking a very long time to get it to bend in tune, but it's kind of cool.
So no matter what comes my way, still got a reason to praise.
Got a ton of phaser and stuff on it. Same plugin I was using before, just more distortion, tube screamer effects. Yeah, I think that's really like the main parts of the song. Yeah, I mean, you got my harmonies and you got all the harmonies together.
Bring on the fire, bring on the rain. I can't enjoy.
This was a really challenging song to make. It was fun. It came together super fast, and then it took forever to mix because of the kind of limitations we had. But I think it overall made me a better producer. I feel like, while I would still go back now after having finished this about 2 months ago, I would go back and change some things now if I could. I know why I did what I did, and I learned a lot from doing this. One of the other things I learned is I had to get a new computer. I've upgraded computers since I finished this because I couldn't finish more than 30 tracks at a time without it just system overloading. And so I ended up having to do all vocals on one project, all the music on another project, and then I'm mixing and mastering at the end in one project together, bouncing down. If you listen to the harmonies right here, that's 10 tracks that I've had to make into one, which is not the ideal way you want to do that. You'd like to be able to see them all and adjust them individually, but I didn't have the time, and I didn't have the literally the CPU. So how to make work what I could make work, but I'm feeling blessed that the song's done. I'm feeling blessed that I have a computer now that can handle 75 tracks at once, and I can listen back to this now and be like, oh, I wish I could have turned this knob this way or whatever. But I think the song sounds. You're gonna be able to listen to the song and be like, oh, I know what he was trying to do. And if the 7 mix engineers that'll listen to this and pick out the flaws, like, yeah, you're right. You can hear them. But if you're just trying to let's do it to have a good time and reflect on the goodness of God, I think you'll be able to do that. Thank you all for watching. If you finished this far, you're amazing. I can't imagine you did that, but thank you for paying attention. If you like this, let me know, because every song I've made and put it together in our home, usually in the studio, but as of this one, literally in our dining room. And so if you want to see more production breakdowns, it's fun to do because I like going back through these and seeing what I've done and what I should have done. So if you enjoyed it, comment down below. Let me know if it's worth your time to watch. It's worth my time to do it. So have a great day. I hope you enjoy the song Got a Reason to Praise.